in to the next episode of the Coastal Wave Podcast. I'm Pat Zarcone, and I'm here with three awesome guests. You know where we're coming from, the second floor of the Berkshire Hathaway HomeServices office. And I'm here with a lot of construction experience with Jeff Milford from Home Team Construction, Scott Malden from Daywall Homes, and Jeff O'Brien from Home Team Construction. And we're just going to talk about how the market's doing and what the process is to get a home built today. So Jeff, thanks so much for being here, man.
Thanks for having us. I don't know if you're talking to me or O'Brien.
I'm going to call you Jeff, and I'm going to call Obi.
All right.
All right, so I've known you guys forever, man, but it's maybe been a little bit since we worked together in the field. So how's it going out there?
It's been a little hot lately, not gonna lie.
Definitely warm. Jeff?
Busy. Still prices, still building.
Still person, still building?
Yeah.
So when you say that you got a lot of clients coming into the office, like directly coming right to you looking for custom homes or looking for homes that are ready to move into?
Custom homes, design, build. Yeah.
Custom homes, design, build. Scott, how are you been doing? Me and you work together, so I know where we're at.
I know what we do.
All right. What do you got? So everyone has been talking about how the supply chain messed up the last couple of years, and do you feel like the supply chain's caught up yet? I got a question to any one of you guys.
I just feel like every time you think you got it under control, something else goes down. Now it's, was garage doors at one point, and then the garage doors were fine, you could get them, and now all of a sudden, garage doors are hard to get again. They're getting called, they don't even want to, no more insulated garage doors. Now you gotta buy regular garage doors. I just don't know when it's gonna end. You never know what's gonna pop up. You never know what is available today. It's not gonna be available tomorrow.
But no, the short answer is no.
Yeah.
I haven't caught up yet. It's not like it used to be in 2020.
It's unreliable.
Yeah.
It's unreliable, and the pricing's unreliable, so.
The lumber's come down some, but it's not like 2020. It's still up.
Well, like Scott, you said the other day, yeah, lumber's come down, but everything else
went up.
Yeah, so where are you seeing the pricing rising right now?
On everything. On
Everything.
the roofs, the garage doors. The guy went from whatever it was, 2,000, and now it's 4,000, and you can't get them.
Sheetrock's up. That's
Oh,
a
yeah,
big, that's a big one that's up right now.
Wire, electric wire is.
Could Scott be right with that everything answer just based on delivery costs? I mean, it's not cheap to get trusses delivered,
I'm not sure what the deliveries impact is.
I'm just talking about gas, right? Because gas is starting to level off a little bit, I guess.
I see a $50 to $75 surcharge put on every delivery.
Yeah, that's new.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's what I'm talking about.
they're hitting everyone with a surcharge to deliver, where before it was just included in the price.
Quarter tank of gas.
Well, it doesn't even make sense. I'm gonna charge you $50 and it only takes however long it takes. If everybody's getting $50 or $75 and they're doing 10 deliveries a day, it's 700. They're not putting $750.
But I don't know if they're not. I mean, Scott, you got some familiarity with gas. It goes fast when everyone's using it, right?
Oh yeah, we go through a lot of gas at the jet ski business and the water sports.
How many gallons of gas do you go through? I mean, these are little one-cylinder engines, right? Two?
Every 2 weeks we probably drop 5,000 gallons in the ground of unleaded.
That's a lot of gas, man.
And then on the diesel side we're dropping not the same every week, 5,000.
How many jet skis is that?
The jet skis are 50. About 50 of them in the
So
water.
50 jet skis, it's 100 gallons a piece. No, 10 gallons a piece.
We're talking about 50 now until, let's see, a jet ski will go through 16 gallons in 3 hours.
Dang. Yeah. Dude, when you think of it like that, how much does it, I mean, you have equipment, you have some heavy equipment. What's it take to run your bulldozer? What do you have right now, Jeff?
We got a track hoe and 2 skid steers. But we're not, it's all diesel. I have a diesel truck. I'm going through 1 tank a week, but I'm not delivering every day.
Well, that's what I mean. You're driving to your office and maybe
Our day-to-day trucks are diesels.
Well, I'm just talking about how much in volume are they using. I know diesel gets a little bit better per mile, right? I don't know. Everything looks good on paper.
I didn't see any mileage savings.
No way. I'm probably getting 14 miles a gallon.
I get 18 Escalade.
Right.
How are you doing? You have everything. How's the Suburban?
20. I drive slow.
How's the diesel? Because that's the same truck Obi has.
20. Drive slow.
Yeah, my Chevy diesel was running 17 gallons. I got a new Ford F-150 And it says I'm getting 22.5 right now.
That's a twin turbo.
But that's not diesel, that's just.
That's a V6 twin turbo.
Yep.
Yeah, well, I mean, going off of those things, and we're talking about, all of us are spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars of gas a week, and we're not delivering, right? We're spending thousands and thousands, but that's when it's running all day. So when you have the big 10-cylinder engine coming in, delivery's gotta have an impact on their bottom line. So the surcharges, I think we can move past that. It's more along the lines of getting to the stuff to the job. Like we had one in Wild Wing, and we waited for 3.5 weeks for sheetrock. I think it must have been the same company you were using in Surfside.
Yeah, we waited 6 weeks for sheetrock.
Did you run into any of that?
Yeah, we had a little 2 week delay, just
2 weeks.
2 weeks ago.
That is so crazy. Think about what we just said. In sheetrock stage, when you're supposed to be getting to 8 weeks away from moving, maybe 10, 12 weeks, 3 months down the road, you just lost 25% of your build or 20% of your build time.
You know what the worst part of that is too, Pat? So we pass along the same line. So, we're gonna be there Monday. So we put it on the schedule, the homeowners have a schedule, and we tell them it's gonna be there Monday. Monday comes and goes, they come look.
That's right.
What's going on? Oh, I don't know. So they tell us Tuesday. And now here we are 2 weeks later, we're passing along the same line that the sheetrock company's telling us, and they are furious.
Yep.
I can't imagine what 6 weeks would
I have
be
the
for you.
solution to that though. I tell them it's gonna be there when it shows up.
Yeah.
I lived through the 3 weeks, and that was in a tight closing. So we were supposed to be. I mean, if we were going to follow the closing date, he's got 2 weeks left, and there's no way. Cabinets are in such now, so he'll be a month behind, and that's with sheetrock. I mean, the job just sat there with insulation, spray foam.
Yeah, but
Just sat there.
4 weeks for block.
What?
I waited 4 weeks for block in Waterbridge. I ordered it 4 weeks ago, and we're gonna get it today, and they said it would take 10 days to get it when I ordered it. So it should have been there. We've been waiting. You've seen it. The footer's been sitting there for almost 2 weeks waiting on block.
But the average person, their answer is, well, just get somebody else. Just call somebody
Just
else.
plan
I
better.
don't understand what to do. Yeah. How come if you knew there was a 2 week delay, how come you didn't order it 4 weeks ago? Well, we did order it 4 weeks ago, and they told us to be on that date. And then all of a sudden,
We didn't order it from the company that told us the truth, unfortunately. The one that said, I can't get it for 6 weeks. At least then I could have came back and told them the truth. So that gives us all that trigger. Now we're all trigger shy to tell people what we're hearing.
And if we want, the superintendents want to pull
Start
schedule.
everything off with, we always get lied to. They tell you.
Well, Jeff said it perfect. What a great saying. Now I got to pass along the same lie.
Right.
I got to pass along. You made me a liar.
Right.
And turn people into liars.
Right.
And it's is it their fault? Is it the
They might
vendor's
believe what
fault?
they're saying. They might be getting lied to. It's just chain reaction of.
It's a supply chain, and it isn't better.
Well, the sheetrock thing was the company, I believe, I don't know the name of it, but they lost 2 trucks that
That's
week.
right.
And that's what caused us to have that huge delay in getting our sheetrock.
For you that ordered it from that actual company, it might cost you 2 weeks from the ripple effect. The people that did pull it out and say, I'm going to go with someone else that can get it here. Yeah, what were they telling you? Was it going to be like, it's coming tomorrow, it's coming tomorrow, it's coming tomorrow?
Our issue was they didn't want to stock it because the project manager at the time that we had, no longer with us, loaded the yard up so they couldn't stock it where the power lines were. You know what I mean? That's how I set up where they had the power lines above it, so they couldn't actually stock it. We had to clean up the whole yard, but we kept getting bumped and bumped and bumped. So we were ready within a week, but they still, we got off the schedule that we really needed to stay on.
That's
It was
why
just a
4 or 6 weeks. The
It was
first
just a
week
shit
might have
show.
been on us.
You were all part of it.
Yeah, I
I'm on
heard about
vacation
it.
for a month. That was my problem. If I didn't go to the Florida Keys, we wouldn't have any problem.
So how are we doing with permits? I mean, we were, this office here that's pulled some permits is, we're seeing 6, 7, 8 weeks and some that would
I'd
take
say
10
6
days.
to 10.
6
We
to
had a
10.
few that lingered into the 12-week period, but
Me too.
I would say 8 to 10 now is probably the going rate. It seems like for the last 2 permits we pulled anyway.
And at least you're aware
Well, now you can plan for it, sort of.
now.
But
When the
who wants to
12,
order windows 4 months before the project starts, just to have them there when you need them? I mean, it can happen in 4 months. The homeowners might back out, something, and then you're.
windows change.
It really matters with the specs. You definitely need the permits faster. But on the customs, I think the delays helped us in the long run.
because the prices came down.
Exactly.
It's one way to say it, but if the pricing on everything else is going up, then it's just
We don't know.
break-even.
Hey, you never know. Maybe when we actually get started, it might be lower, it might be twice as much.
So that's how volatile it is. And so how do you deal with that, Jeff? What are you doing to protect yourself against the fact that the price could go up 3 times?
It sucks, but unfortunately, we're putting the price escalation clause in the contract.
So you have to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And for what that is, Jeff, just explain to us real quick what a price escalation clause is.
It basically says that from the day we sign the contract, if the material pricing goes up, because we set our price at that day, what we know the prices are. But if the price goes up over a certain percentage, everybody gets their percent. I say 5. And the customer is responsible for the price difference over that 5%.
Do you have to? How do you show them the price of what it is today? Like as you're pricing it, you just devolve.
Some of the
all your
stuff,
projects?
like for lumber, especially the lumber, I just started making an allowance. And
Sure.
You know, so I give them an allowance, whatever it is, depending on the size of the house, it might be 80, 90, $100,000. This is what I got. But the other stuff, I mean, you can't do it with everything.
No, it costs plus house.
Right. So I mean, you know, things like electric or concrete or sheetrock. You know, we just have to look at, like, it's easy to see because you can see what wire's going for on that day. It's a commodity, it's copper. So, you know, there's a little bit of a trust issue because they don't see the numbers that day. They just see the total contract.
Have you had to use it yet?
Haven't had to use it yet.
Has it gone close to backwards yet?
And then the other part of that, yes. And then the other part of the price escalation clause, which I was hesitant on, was, and I had a customer, it was a good question, it was a good answer. Well, what about a de-escalation clause?
That's what I just asked. What's going on?
Right, so.
An allowance is an allowance.
Right, yeah.
That's not that's not an escalation clause. That's an allowance.
Yes, so, which is a good question, it's a legitimate question. If I have to pay more, am I gonna get a credit if it's less? So that's up to the individual builder and how they structure their contract.
And I'm just assuming.
I know with you, if there's less, I get to keep the less. What if there's more?
Well, that's not me. That's the unnamed builder in the room. Alright, so.
I have an escalation clause.
No, I would say that's different, right? There's these different ways of building things, and I think that that's something people should really understand, that it's not just all builders have different ways of pricing things. They have different ways to write their contracts, and we just talked about a couple of them being where Scott had mentioned he's way closer to turnkey, and he is because there's a lot of detail on the front end. So to come into contract for Scott to build a house, he's gonna have 20, 30 pages of this is exactly what you're getting, right? And now he's gonna take the risk based on if the prices move around or whatnot, then he'll make less or make more. But the options of us all shopping together isn't really there at that point. It's done before contract. With an escalation clause or allowances like you're talking about, well, what's that? Explain that process, how you work your allowances.
So, for me, my customer hasn't picked out everything. So anything that we don't know, that they haven't selected yet, it becomes an allowance. And most people, when they're designing a house and starting a house, they hadn't picked out their front door yet. They hadn't picked out their flooring. They haven't picked out their cabinets and granites and lighting. So all those unknowns, you know, we go through and they say, I like this, I like that, and Jeff and I get a general idea of what they're looking at and what that cost is, and we try to give them, to the best of our ability, an allowance that's going to fit what they're looking at. So if they're looking at quartz, you know, we might be giving them a higher allowance for, than granite. You know, but if they're looking at, solid surface, one piece tops in the bathroom, we might give them a lower allowance for their tops.
Sure.
So we do our best, but at the end of the day, they're still gonna, when they get into those showrooms, all the angels are singing and all the lights are and the expensive stuff. Oh, let's go in the back room where all the dust is.
And we really did. We did our best to try to limit it. But there's no hiding from it, right, Scott? You still have allowances on your custom homes.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
it needs to be like countertops.
And just like you said,
Appliances.
even if you put it in the specs, you still have to have some kind of baseline for it's their house. I mean, how do you change it? Now, some builders did try to do that, right? And have you, what's your answer to the spec houses that you're building that, they're not even for sale yet, right?
We got one that's about to go on the market, but we're gonna finish it and figure out what the cost of build was, and then we're gonna put it on the market for
whatever the price is based
Market
on
value.
no allowances anymore. Now we can go off of what it costs.
That's right.
The different approach.
That's where we start.
It's a totally different
I'm
approach.
interested to see how it goes though. I love that.
Well, it always
There's very few good custom homes on the market that can be bought that haven't been.
there's
Yeah,
no,
that's one. Yeah,
there really isn't any. The idea I look through the
Where's yours
market
at?
there and the finished new construction home, you'll find them in neighborhoods, tract homes. And the tract homes are pretty nice nowadays. I think we all agree with that. They're getting nicer and well, they're not as nice as y'all stuff, but they're a nice house. They're nicer than they were when we first got here.
I wouldn't know. I don't know.
Well, I can tell you this, if
But
you're
garbage,
in
you
an
build a
area,
house in 45
starts
days,
at
it's
four.
garbage.
White quartz everywhere. That's the deal. Now, you're not picking anything. It's just that everyone's getting white quartz, right? In all bathrooms. Right? You know how they did that. They ended up with some kind of sick train track, train worth of it. That's why it's more expensive for us. And they have it, and they're just putting it in everywhere, right? So things get better with age. When look at a new car is better than it was 20 years ago. You know what I mean? So the cost plus. Have you guys ever built a house cost plus?
Yeah, I did one.
You did?
We did one last year.
How did it go?
It was all right. It was fair. I mean, it worked out fair. It works out fair for everybody. It'd be nice to continue. That it's the challenge is to the homeowner and the builder having the trust issue.
It takes a lot of trust, transparency.
Right.
That's
So
right.
showing everything's got to be open book, and as soon as you lose a little bit of trust, there's second. They want all of us have reliable subcontractors and vendors that we go and work with. So if we say this bottle of water is $1, well, the homeowner's going to say, well, I could buy a 40 pack of this at Costco for $6. Sorry, keep on. Got them admin bills. He would question this and question that, and we'd send it, and we'd send all the paperwork. And when, at the end of the month, when he got that bill, whoa, all of a sudden his questions got a little more direct and not so,
Yeah.
can you send me this or can you send me that?
Well,
As soon as he knew he was getting billed for that time,
It got better for him. He realized that he was paying for something, and so he started using the service. And because you have good customer service, you were able to do it for him.
That's right.
That's right. But you couldn't have been able to do it if you didn't charge him.
That's right.
And then he would have just been upset.
That's right. We
So-
both would have been upset. Everyone would have been upset.
Now I got a question because I love to ask these type of things. Were you charging them the plus on the admin fee?
No, we already had a set admin fee.
Okay, so
All right,
that was
I listed everybody out.
Okay.
Accountant, superintendent, labor, mine, Jeff's, all hourly
That
rate.
was set.
That was set rate.
That was
no,
set.
No plus.
That's wise because then you're not coming back and saying, well, you messed this up, so why am I paying you to do it twice or whatever that is. 'Cause that's the stuff that comes about cost plus. Constantly.
The other hard part with the cost plus that I made sure we set up front is even the mistakes are cost plus. So
It should be.
if a 2x12 gets cut wrong, I'm sorry, that 2x12 you had to pay for. That was a little bit of an issue because why should I pay for that? I said, well, if it was in contract price, we would have absorbed it.
Right.
We would have had a line item for contingencies like everyone should, and if you're a builder and you listen to that and you're just pricing stuff just what it costs, you're gonna make a mistake and now you're gonna lose money.
That's right.
Because there's not a house that's built out there that everything went exactly perfect.
That's right.
Yeah, I mean, you wanna measure twice and cut once, but we know the difference, man. You know the saying, we do it nice because we do it twice. It's just how it is. How about ARB stuff? How's that been going?
ARBs, man.
Oh, this is really good.
Now, an ARB, for anyone that doesn't know, is an architecture review board or an
Sometimes
architect.
it's called an ARC.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
Committee or board.
And that group is most of the time, it's appointed by the board of directors, right?
For the most part, it's gonna be, each neighborhood has their own covenants and restrictions, how they're gonna do it, but yeah, in general, I think everyone that I've worked with, that's how it is.
And there's a lot of experience with architecture review boards in the room. Jeff, you've served on an architecture review board committee for a long time, right?
Yeah, I called one of the guys on the way here, and I was on it the last term for 6 years, and then I was on initially for 3 years, so I've got 9 years on architectural.
9 years sitting on it. And Scott, you put together a bunch of different plans to get through, and you
Yeah,
get
I'm
kickback out of
there.
things, and you've had people tell you that you can't build the house you want to build on your property, and it gets nuts. So, in the overall scheme of things, you think it's better for a neighborhood to have an architecture review board or to not have an architecture review board?
Well, it's a lot easier for the builder to not have an architectural review board and the homeowner if they're looking to do anything they want. But, you know, it's for the value of the home, for the area staying, you know, architectural review boards are good too. They keep the values, they make sure you're following, not putting a purple house, you know, in there, not putting a log cabin in an area, like the Grand Dudes, for example, you know.
But couldn't the HOA just do that?
I don't know, who's gonna manage it?
Well, I guess,
Yeah.
well, the HOA, but
So the architectural review board basically manages the guidelines, you know. That's what their intent is. And of course, there's people that have to be on there that are almost always volunteers, with the exception of the paid architect. And not all neighborhoods have a paid architect, but most of them do.
So what is the board's it's put on there by the HOA. The HOA, the members themselves, the board of directors, are elected by the people that live in the neighborhood.
That's right.
And then there's a board form called an ARC or an ARB. You know, their job is to just make sure that the homes in the place are
Following the guidelines
Okay.
that are in there.
if there's a roof line or something that's
The
not.
sizes, the colors, you know, the exterior style and design of the covenants and restrictions and the architectural review board guidelines. So there's usually two documents in most communities. There's a covenants and restrictions, almost impossible to change. And then architectural review board guidelines. That's like a living document. Those can change.
Is that
unfortunately.
okay? Is it okay that it changes, Scott? I mean, honestly, when you're trying to build a house, is it alright that the ARB's changing it in the middle of the process?
Nothing's all right in my opinion. I think those guys, I think they don't know what they're talking about half the time. And I do.
Well, Milford did.
Well, when we love Milford, that's different. That's when the days were good.
Yeah.
But you know, I think if they would just tell us what they want one time and not do what they want the first time.
Guidelines.
Yeah.
Well, that's
And then keep
phenomenal.
going back, you know, they change stuff, they pull it out of the air, like, you know, I don't understand the principle of how they manage right now. It's just like, what were the delays on yours, like 3 months, 4 months to get an approval in
3.5 months.
3.5 months? I mean, I had one that was going the same way, 4 months, 5 months. And then at the very end, the Taylor Architect Group goes,
Oh, name drop.
I can say no more. They want to hit you for that fourth one, so you pay them more money. And I'm just like, you know, if you did your job right, we would have gotten this done the first go around. Because I just do exactly what they say. I don't get the list and go, oh, I'm going to argue. I'm like, get it done. And we do, and then they come back and say, we'll do more. And you're just like, you know.
And well,
It makes you emotional, you know.
they're just assuming that it's going to be a 3-step process, which was different. We're not even mentioning what neighborhood here. It's just the fact that the idea that you can change the process or change what you sold in the middle of doing it is just, it's bizarre.
And it's crazy. And there's really not much you can do about it unless you're gonna lawyer up and try to fight them.
That's really,
You know, and the hard part, you know, sitting in there for the time that I did, I seen, you know, there's, in the neighborhood that I was on, there's 5 members. So I seen people come and go. And, you know, I was on there for a long time. And it's Jeff's opinion. It's Jeff's interpretation of the guidelines, or Pat's interpretation of the guidelines, or Scott's interpretation of the guidelines. So, you know, it's okay to have difference of opinions, and the way that it's designed is you have an opinion of, or your interpretation and your interpretation, and then they vote. This is what we think the interpretation in the majority rules. So it was crazy what.
and really, and people were arguing
All the time.
over other people's houses.
Over what their interpretation of what the guidelines meant. You know, like Scott was talking about, and you know, even the interpretation of should the builder and the homeowner be present. That's huge. I mean, you want to get through it quickly. You need everybody at the same table.
You would think that makes sense, right?
I would think so.
I mean, you're the one in the field.
And that's
building the
what
house.
went smooth.
You're spending
That's what it went smooth.
the thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of
Yeah.
dollars. You would think that you'd be present to voice your concerns and opinions in front of everybody, just like, you know, in a courtroom or whatever, you're allowed to be there to plead your case when not a bunch of guys in the back room talking about your house and your future and your dreams behind your back, making decisions for you.
And their responses go back to the covenants.
Did you just pause it?
Yeah,
Alright.
I said it. Yeah, I said it error. Pause.
We'll
Just pause. Yeah, hold on. It is 11.
The next shot, I'll be gone.
It is 11:45.
No, I got it. I got it.
Why don't you just dismiss them? Hey, Jeff gotta go,
Yeah.
whatever, you know, hey, thanks for having us, whatever.
Okay.
Surprised how easy it would have been to. That's fine.
I think it would be kind of funny, but I don't know. I've never watched the podcast before, so I don't know.
Well, it's gonna be tidbits of it. Right? You ready, Chris?
Okay, I need to give a second.
So yeah, it would definitely make sense for the people to be there, especially the people that are pleading their case, or you said pleading your case like it's a courtroom. That's what it
Well,
is.
that's what these guys, to me, they're like a Supreme Court. They're in there, they're interpreting the laws, they're interpreting the covenants and restrictions, and if there's 5 members, just like the Supreme Court, 5 or 7, you know, they talk about it, everybody's got a different opinion of what the law is or what, and then they vote on it. And the vote is the vote, and that's how it's supposed to work, but at the same time, people go in front of the Supreme Court and plead their case on how they interpret the law. And
Or any
they,
court.
right, or the
Any.
covenants and restrictions and what they, so.
And just to me, it seems that it's crazy to think that it would be a good process to not have the people that are asking in the room. And I-
Design the house, you
Right.
know, so you got,
Unless you just assume it's gonna pass. And then when you're in a situation where things are not going through the first time, second time, third time, and you're still not allowed in the room, I think that's bizarre.
I know Jeff has to go soon, so.
Yeah, well, we'll continue going on too. Jeff, thanks very much for being
Oh,
here.
thanks for having
That
me.
was
This is
awesome,
great.
dude. And we'll continue the conversation. That's the life of a builder out there. He's got an appointment, he's gotta get there, and we're gonna dismiss him and keep on going, because I think that the talk about the HOA and the ARB is something that we need to, explain to the people that are listening to what's going on for the building. While they're getting upset about the idea that it can't be done, or it's not, you're waiting 4 months for your house to get built. It's one thing for the sheetrock not to be there. It's another thing for you to just start and then not do anything for 4 months.
Right.
So how are you dealing with that with your customers? What did you tell them?
Well, I didn't have to tell them anything. The architectural review board was responding to everything.
Oh, that's good.
So they weren't happy. I mean, they were furious. I mean, the last customer was, they were wanting to pull out.
That's what I was just gonna ask.
They were wanting to pull out. They were saying, you know what, I think I picked the wrong neighborhood, the open communication, this not having us at the meetings, Being on the architecture review board, when we had, it was, the guidelines were, we met, the very first meeting, the architecture review board met with the builder and the homeowners. So they got, they'd send the plans in, the architect would pre-review it, the architecture review board would look at it. While the homeowner was waiting, we'd make our list of questions, and we'd call the homeowner in and say, hey, this is what we're thinking. And we might be thinking they needed to put a window in a spot, and they might be saying, well, that's my closet, and I don't want a window in that spot. Can we put a false shutter detail, or could we put a tree that's
Options.
And then we'd agree on it, and we'd get it approved, and we'd walk away, and everybody knew where everyone was coming from.
Right.
So I found that's definitely the best way to expedite getting through. Everybody knew where everybody was coming from, everybody knew what the concerns were, and it was the perfect scenario why an architectural review board was good. Because sometimes the suggestions were great, and it was something that I, as the builder or the homeowner, didn't think about, and the architect would have an excellent suggestion, and oh, thanks, that's perfect, that's what this is designed for.
Sure.
And the other way is they look at it, they don't want you there, they say this, and then you have to come back and say, well, the reason why they didn't want to do is that, and time is wasted and money is wasted, and people are frustrated,
Why wouldn't they want you in the room? Because I know that we've gone before, and it was just such an easy process. So what are they telling you? Scott, why are you not allowed to go talk about the house you're trying to build?
They just don't like, I think they don't like the friction. I think they want to pull things out that should be very simple and make it a problem.
Mhm.
And make it drag out. I've even heard comments, because I live in one of the communities,
Sure.
that they want to slow down the construction. So they're making it an issue to slow down the construction, which all they've really done is created where now there's like 15, 20 houses being built at the exact same time, when it could have all been dwindling along.
And that's what you were understanding too, that this is intentionally done to slow construction down.
In the neighborhood that Scott's talking about, that's, I believe, the same thing,
But weren't we just talking about the pricing moving around and the volatility of everything, and how you've got allowances on lumber now? I mean, how's that working out?
It's working out terrible. Yeah, so interest rates, just didn't touch base on that.
Yeah.
Interest rates are going up every day, so you've delayed the progress 3-4 months.
For their neighbor, people
And
that they wanna live next door to.
Their neighbors.
Yeah, now that neighbor can't get the 3% interest rate because the neighborhood pushed them out.
What causes people to, well, I guess the idea of trying to slow construction down, I mean, I.
That's just a rumor.
In
I think we
someone's
can
head, I
walk
guess
on the
you-
board. I think, I personally know that I have issues because I probably self-inflicted, you know, they're slowing me down on purpose.
There's a little bit there. But Jeff, your issues aren't self-inflicted, or are they?
I don't think so.
So
They shouldn't be.
your issues are just caught in the middle of trying to get slowed down on purpose.
Well, it's that, yeah, I think that. And it's the experience level of the volunteers, you know, all architectural review boards are volunteers.
So it's
So,
some ignorance.
If you got, ignorance or just, ignorance, I guess that's the right
Yeah,
answer.
I
They don't know
there's a
about
teaching
stuff, so
process.
they're trying to figure it out, you know.
And we're having to teach them.
Right.
Like, we have to explain these things.
But they're not letting you talk.
And
They're not in
letting
the,
you talk.
yeah, that's right, so, you know,
So it's just a total standstill. And then it took you 4 months to get through one?
the last one, yeah. But other neighborhoods are great, it's all about the people.
This was a great neighborhood.
It was.
This was a great neighborhood. It was a little secret. Everyone could the architecture review board was hard because you had to do the house right. But just tell us what you're gonna do and do it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, we're not talking about things like when you said that you're gonna do the house with vinyl siding and it needs to be hardy plank. I mean, these people are pulling weird stuff out, like, you gotta, this drainage plan, I don't really know and understand it. I mean, like.
I broke into an ARB office once.
Even though the drainage plan was done by an engineer.
A professional.
At the end,
We're following the guidelines, here's the drainage plan done by an engineer. Now, the people that are not engineers that are on the architectural review board, this drainage plan isn't right.
I moved
surveyor.
something on the plan when I went into the ARB office. I did. It was bad times. It was the middle of the recession and there was a fireplace that was definitely in the wrong spot. So I put that fireplace where it belonged, where it was. Oh man, that's so good to have off my chest.
The truth,
I don't know.
The truth is out.
It's just the architecture review
You
board.
cut
It's
this
just
stuff out.
oh man, it just drives you crazy when you think about it's always between good and good.
Well, here's what I get annoyed by with those stupid little fines you get. Like, we're clearing, and we are dropping trees down on the property, and they send me a fine that day saying, your silk fence isn't up. I'm like, you can't put it up yet. It's just not what we do.
Well, if you put it up, you're just gonna ruin it and have to re-put it up, you know? And you can't grade with the silt fence up, because we're
You
grading
can't put
to
it
the
without
sidewalk.
grading it. You gotta bust up the soil so you can beat it into this million-year-old earth, you know? It's just, you know, the fines drive me crazy.
I personally believe the earth is 5,000 to 6,000 years old, 7 maybe, but okay. In any case, so they're making you put silt fence up day one.
That's
That's a new guideline, yeah.
When it's in the new guidelines.
And it changed over.
That's the change guideline.
And it's between that.
The size of the rock. Remember the
So
rock?
what's the
too?
difference between me, trying to find my plans and moving a fireplace around, or the ARB itself in the middle of a process writing in that you have to have silt fence before you start, which is insane.
It's insane, man.
It's
So,
impossible.
They've had so many problems with this. The state of South Carolina, I forget what the act is called. I don't know when. I want to say it's 2020.
So this isn't coming from the ARB. This is coming from Army Corps of Engineers.
Well, no, I'm talking about the guidelines now.
Okay.
So the guidelines, all the guidelines are supposed to be filed with the state of South Carolina
Of course.
by January 10th of every year. So they did that because of architecture review boards intermediately, just halfway through when the IR staff started changing the rules. So, I know last year we could put the silt fence up after the lot's cleared, but this year we're or in the middle of the year or halfway through, we changed the rule. Or we changed the rule on the size of the rock.
That happened. And some state officials like Heather and those guys went to bat for us to get that rule in through the HOA. It's a huge win for the Coastal Association of Realtors, CCAR,
Yeah.
Coastal Carolina Association of Realtors. And that was something that we were fighting for, that we at least said, if you're gonna change, I thought it was the HOA docs, but I guess the ARB is a part of that.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna change it, then you have to file it.
That's
It
right.
can't just be in your filing cabinet, changed 3 times with a marker through it, sending it to the new owners.
Yeah.
You know, that's
Oh,
not.
by the way, here's the new rule and here's your fine.
It has to be recorded. It has to be recorded with the state. Was what it was, and you're even giving me more detail than I knew that it was a specific date for the next year.
Mhm.
So you're aware of this rule because of the issues that you've had to deal with now. And
Yeah, I'm aware because being on the Architects Review Board, we were in a rush we were revising the guidelines and we were in a rush to get it in there by January 10th so that we were following all the right state rules and everything.
And what was your process if someone was in the middle of a build and you're changing the rules?
We were grandfathered in, right?
Yeah.
Grandfathered, yeah. I never had
Everything
issues.
was started.
Everything that's the way we did it then.
What if you were applied for?
Even if it was applied for.
Okay, that makes sense, right?
So everything the day that you signed, because the homeowner and the builder signed something that says, I agree to follow these rules.
Right.
If I don't follow these rules, these are the consequences. And from that date on, when you date it, you sign it and date it. So when I was on the Architecture Review Board, if we changed it, that was everything moving forward. It didn't encompass the ones that were prior.
Or even applied for.
Or even applied for, yeah.
And when you think about a major change, look at Grand Dunes. You know what I'm talking about here. Remember when we all first got started, Grand Dunes had to be,
ICF.
or even metal studs, right?
Yeah.
So, and then all of a sudden now we're building everything out of 2x6.
Yeah.
So that's one of those examples of that's a major change in an architecture review board. You're talking about how big the temporary driveway needs to be, or what stone it's made out of.
Right.
Not the roof pitch or the overall design.
Yeah.
And then even that comes with a cost to the builder.
Yeah.
Those little changes.
That's right.
So how did you communicate to the owners or the builders that you were making these changes?
I had forwarded the Architecture Review Board new rules. Here's the new rules.
This
We
is
have
the
to
ones
follow
we're
these new rules. These new rules are gonna cost you money because we gotta replace the lock. We gotta change the silk sock. We gotta do the silk fence differently, you know?
Things that made sense.
Yeah, but in my opinion, it was all, in this particular neighborhood, it was all just a money grab, ways to fine, you know? Because as soon as they did that, the fines started coming. You know, Scott knows, we've been in this neighborhood for years building houses, and all of a sudden, you know, no fines. The Architecture Review Board idea was to make sure the house met the criteria, make sure it looked good, and they weren't a money-making entity, you know?
Why would it be a
Nonprofit.
money-making entity? In a
That's what they're trying to do.
This is a subcommittee of an HOA. How is that making money?
That's what they do. They fine you to take your bonds
Yeah.
and keep the money.
That was discussed on the architecture review board?
That was,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow. I mean, it seems
This
like
is
it makes
inside
sense to me.
information.
For sure.
There.
It's inside information, but it seems obvious when, they designate the funds for things.
Yeah.
Right.
Like grills at the pool.
You
And,
know.
let's put some roofs out there. So we.
Well, when an HOA at a board meeting is saying, and we're gonna use all the fines from the construction to rebuild the playground,
That's stupid.
all of a sudden now
If
there's
all the
motivation to
owners.
fine people.
So money
Yeah, no,
back
they
in the
didn't do
nails and
that.
the tires.
They did it privately at the meeting, you know.
Okay.
There was a new member that came in, and he says, it was maybe his second or third week, and he says, I rode around the neighborhood and I see 25,000, I'm making that number, but it's 20-something thousand. I see $20,000 worth of fines. I don't know why we're not going after these fines. Of course, me as a builder, not wanting to be fined, and me as a owner of the community, saying that's not the intent of the Architecture
That's
Review
right.
Board.
We
The
don't-
intent for the Architecture Review Board is to make sure the roads are clean and, the house is built per the guidelines, per the design criteria, and that's it. We
Keep
don't-
property values up. That's
That's right.
we're here to keep the property values up and to keep the process moving forward in the way the neighborhood wanted it to go.
Yeah, because all that's gonna do is add costs to the remaining people that haven't built in there yet, and make it frustrating for the builders and the homeowners that are getting these fines, you know?
So if you're changing heights of things, has there been that? Any kind of height changes in the foundation based on, because there's some of that going on in neighborhoods where what was good at this time isn't good now.
Right, yeah, I could see that. Now, there's one now. No, they didn't change heights.
It's a lot of natural terrain there. But when you're in a neighborhood and all of a sudden now the house is literally sometimes 2-3 feet taller than the house next door based on a different board.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're just like, it's just not right. And it doesn't seem to be too much common sense when, especially if you can't get in the room.
Yeah, Yeah, well, you know what they say about common sense.
It's not so common.
That's right.
And so what can be done to fix it? Lawyer up?
That's, man, it seems like it's the only thing, you know? You could plead your case, you could highlight the guidelines, you could talk sense, but, you know, at the end of the day, you would still be at the mercy of whatever architecture review board or board of directors is going to listen and follow through with it.
If they want to make sense of it.
That's right.
Well, that's a huge issue. So when we're sitting here talking about this, as far as a builder in our county right now, the fight is a supply chain that is completely unreliable, pricing that goes up and down in a minute's notice without anyone knowing. We didn't get into labor shortages, right?
No?
And we know that that's out there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's at every restaurant. It's definitely making its way and has been in the construction industry. And the municipalities, you know, the permits taking 5 times longer than they used to a year ago.
It used to be a week or two.
Yeah, I know. It was
4 months.
We'd be building houses and people from up north would be like, what's the permit process? You know, 3 months or like a week.
Yeah, put it in Monday, I'll have it Friday.
Yeah, that's right. If I wait around, I might be able to, you know, just nuts.
Yeah.
It is such a different place.
That's crazy.
And it's within
2 years.
2 years, that's what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
2 years. Man. We built the house, it was in the Bluffs, and the owner said, Pat, I don't blame you at all. We have a COVID house. We have a COVID house. It's just the fact that no matter what we said, whatever came back out, the people couldn't be honest with us. You know, now the house is great. It just took an extra this long and it cost an extra this much more.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and even when you set in allowances and cabinets double, because lumber goes up and that doesn't catch up until 3-4 months later, now you have an allowance for your cabinets and your cabinet guy bumps his price in the middle of your contract, you don't look good as a builder.
No.
It's impossible to.
You know, people are got tight budgets.
And you want to help.
You think you're not out and
I
helping.
hate this. I hate the fact that I told you it's this and it's not, and
Oh,
it's
yeah.
not me. I'm gonna make less money now.
Yeah.
I know I am, because I'm having to talk to you about it, meaning that I'm wasting, there's everything from this point forward is a waste.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I wouldn't call it a waste, but it's, you're not moving forward in the right direction, you know?
It costs
Yes,
more,
it costs
and
time.
now we have to
Time
talk
and
about
money,
it.
yeah.
Well, trust me, as a real estate agent, man, there is nothing more expensive than making sure you don't get paid on a deal. Trying to get out of a deal, right? It's a time consuming thing to talk about things that you can't do anything about.
Right.
It just is, and it never goes, you lose a little trust.
Yeah.
We used to talk about that. Everything could be going perfect, but when one little thing goes wrong, you lose a little trust. You know, you in a paint walkthrough, you know, if there's a terrible thing at the front door, their eyes are a little bit more wide open everywhere because it's a little bit lost trust in your paint job, right? No, we in the room, I think we build awesome houses, right? They're custom homes, they sell well. It's just been hard.
Yeah.
It's a harder job.
It sure is.
Oh, yeah, well, it's definitely a little more.
It's as hard as it's ever been for me.
That's right.
I've never had it harder.
Yeah, me too.
And
It's just
that-
aggravating, like I said, we always plan ahead and you want something when you want it.
Mhm.
And when you keep getting bumped out, it just flows downhill.
And it costs twice as much.
Yeah, it does.
And it took you 3 times longer to get approved for it.
And it's out of our control.
And that's it. Now, the good news is that we can do it, and we have been. And,
For years.
and if it don't kill you, it only makes you stronger, right? And so the houses are still awesome.
Yeah.
We're making money selling houses, right? I mean, not as much as we could if there wasn't all these problems. We just talked about it wasting money, but you know, that's just the way that works, you know?
I could see somebody new not making too much money though.
No, I believe that there's gonna be people that have found their way into the industry, both real estate and construction, in the last 3 years ago, 2 years ago, and they're gonna come to a head.
Yeah,
It's gonna come to a head.
you can get stuff like that.
There's a lot of, stealing from Peter to pay Paul out there,
It takes about a year or two for it to catch up to it.
or just getting held up for 6 months. It's all really like takes is
That's the truth. I
is
think
a
about
permit taking 6 weeks, and then the ARB holding you up for 6
Not
weeks,
getting
and
the
then the
draws.
truss is going up double, and then the truss is not showing up when you need the draw, and that's all it takes.
It's crush a little guy.
Yeah, well, and thank goodness that, whether it's big or little, it's just experience, right? And I think that we had it. I mean, when Obi was in here, I was thinking on my way in, there's gotta be how many years, you've been in construction, what, not 30 yet?
Not 30
You're
years.
dodging that number, 28-ish.
Yeah, well, probably 30.
No, dude, you'd have to be 15.
I don't know, 18.
You're,
I'm gonna be 48.
Oh man, he's been in construction for 30 years. Oh my goodness, I don't even. I'm only 24 or 5. Scott, you since I've known you, 99, 2000, 2000, 23. And we were clipping 100 years in here between 4 guys in their 40s. It's pretty strong.
Of combined experience.
Yeah, that's a lot of construction experience, and it's not all bad because we do know what we're doing, and we'll muscle through this for you. Another perfect example of why you need a builder. You really do. In this time, to try to do it on your own is going to get much harder.
Oh yeah.
It is. Well, guys, thank you so much for coming out here. I learned a ton about what's going on, and any last words? Words of wisdom you can give me?
No, thanks for having us though.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Yeah, man.
Come back
Thanks
again.
so much.
Hopefully shed some light on, for the homeowners,
Yeah.
the delays, and they get to see how,
Behind
why, behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes of a custom home. Thank you so much for listening to the Coastal Wave podcast.